Yesterday, Adrian Vale died broke in every way that mattered. This morning, his bank account had developed a sense of humor. He refreshed once, then 5 more times because paranoia is just caution with better cardio. The money was real, the date was worse. 365 days remained before Julian and Celeste tried to kill him again. He remembered Celeste's last excuse more clearly than her last kiss. Rage offered him a year to make mistakes. Discipline offered him a year to make appointments. The thing in his head had apparently survived the night, so had its personality. Infinite money was useful. Knowing whether his murderers remembered the future would be better. It did not answer the question he asked. It answered the part that might keep him alive. Then came the voice of a man Adrian had ignored for 6 years and remembered for all the wrong reasons. Elias Ward had managed Adrian's disasters so quietly that Adrian once mistook competence for invisibility. 4 ordinary words landed harder than any order Adrian had ever given him. Elias looked less surprised that Adrian remembered a name than suspicious that Adrian had learned one. Sophie had been one bad sale away from losing the future she earned. Adrian remembered the outcome. This time he noticed the father carrying it alone. An apology from Adrian Vale was rare enough to require independent verification. Elias had endured insults with perfect posture. Basic decency nearly broke it. Elias retreated to the safety of schedules where rich men were predictable. The notification on his tablet was small. Adrian remembered exactly how expensive it became. In the old timeline, Adrian never learned the watch existed. He only learned what it was worth after someone else made a fortune from Elias's desperation. The dealer had not lied about the deadline. He had invented everything else. $8,000 sounded generous when the seller did not know a private collector would pay 6 times that. Something tightened behind Adrian's eyes, not pain exactly, more like profit knocking. The system was willing to identify opportunity. Instructions apparently cost extra. Yesterday, Elias would have obeyed and quietly accepted the damage. Today, Adrian discovered that trust could not be inherited with the furniture. Money made the risk fair. The next answer would decide whether the gesture was kindness or theater. Adrian asked for the smallest fee Elias had ever heard. The fee was ridiculous. That was the point. Adrian was not testing Elias, he was testing the word earned. Foreknowledge was useful, evidence was what kept it from looking like magic. The buyer had already announced his weakness to anyone patient enough to read. The old Adrian spent money to feel powerful. This version discovered that silence was cheaper and usually more intimidating. 20,000 would solve the emergency. It would also reward the first person willing to exploit it. Elias looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at the mute button. The watch was rare. The story made it irreplaceable. The collector stopped negotiating like a buyer and started pleading like a fan. 6 minutes earlier, Elias had been ready to accept 8. Adrian did not squeeze for the last dollar. A good deal leaves both sides willing to answer tomorrow. The number on the screen mattered less than the name beside it, Sophie Ward. For the first time that morning, Elias looked like a father instead of an employee. The Vale family had given Adrian millions. None of it had ever felt this heavy. $1 proved he could create value without his surname signing the check. The system considered the negotiation legitimate work. Adrian had doubled $1 and finally understood how to double an empire. The answer made no sense to Elias. The regret behind it did. 1 invitation, 1 silver dress, 1 public disaster waiting to happen again. Adrian had survived murder. Tonight he had to survive a party. Veronica had not improvised his humiliation. She had rehearsed it. The clip cost Adrian 6 months of credibility and gave Julian exactly what he needed. The old Adrian arrived drunk enough to become the story they prepared. Across Crown City, the costume for his execution had already arrived. 2 points would not make Adrian brilliant, decent, or bulletproof. They might make him slightly harder to provoke and less exhausting to look at. The change was not peace, it was space between anger and action. For Adrian, that space was practically luxury real estate. No lightning, no impossible jawline, just a face that looked as if it had slept and made one good decision. It was subtle enough to explain and obvious enough to annoy his brothers. Adrian's old wardrobe entered room several minutes before he did. Tonight he chose clothing that did not require its own apology. Looking improved was useful, knowing where the lens would be was survival. Elias did not ask why. Trust had begun with $1. The Vale Foundation Gala raised money for children and ammunition for family gossip. Every camera expected Adrian to provide the second. The question was bait. Adrian returned it gift-wrapped. A few reporters laughed. The rest checked whether they had photographed the correct brother. His family understood appetites. Restraint made them nervous. Conrad could forgive waste. Independence looked like strategy. Julian smiled like a man petting a harmless animal. Adrian let him keep the mistake. It was becoming valuable. The old Adrian remembered faces only when they were attractive or angry. Tonight, competence began with knowing who was standing in front of him. He did not ask for praise. He offered useful information and moved on. That was how reputations changed when apologies were too cheap. Adrian's first victory of the evening was not admiration. It was making his father suspicious for the right reason. At 8:14, Nate Mercer was supposed to destroy his career without knowing it. In the old timeline, Adrian laughed when the man was fired. Nate had spent weeks preparing the presentation. Adrian needed 6 words to make him afraid of it. Authority had approved the mistake. That did not make it accidental. Nate looked at Adrian as if the family idiot had started speaking fluent audit. The fraud was elegant enough to survive a presentation and crude enough to ruin the presenter. Nate's face lost color one duplicated invoice at a time. It was not a complete lie. The best cover stories rarely are. Foreknowledge got Adrian to the page. Judgment gave him a reason to stay there. Saving Nate's job was useful. Saving the evidence might eventually explain who wanted him destroyed. The audience saw a competent analyst correcting a minor slide. Julian saw 11% of his plan disappear. No accusation, no scene, just confirmation that Adrian had touched something Julian considered his. For once, the younger brother enjoyed being noticed. Reputation did not reverse in a speech, it moved through whispers. Tonight, the whispers had stopped laughing long enough to become curious. Veronica had dressed for seduction, but the real accessory was a camera. Every step of the evening had been blocked like a scene. Adrian was the only actor missing his script. Some memories arrive as thoughts. This one arrived as a dress. The room admired Veronica. Adrian saw evidence walking toward him. Her opening move had worked perfectly the first time. This time, Adrian left her hand holding empty air. The champagne had not killed him. It merely helped everyone believe he deserved what followed. Veronica's smile held. Her eyes recalculated. Defending his entire life would have handed her the argument she wanted. Admitting the truth left her with nothing sharp enough to use. Veronica watched his face. Adrian watched the room watching him. There it was, the tiny black circle that had ruined 6 months of his life. The trap required a drunk man, an insulted minister, and a perfect angle. Veronica still had the minister. The other 2 ingredients were becoming difficult. In the original timeline, Adrian answered the accusation with a better insult. This time, he recognized a sentence designed to make silence look guilty. A lie prepared for outrage is rarely prepared for a calendar. Last Thursday, Adrian had been photographed in another country. Even his scandals had alibis. The minister did not defend Adrian's character. She defended what she had personally seen, and that was worth more. She was probably right. Reputation had inertia. That was why Adrian did not need everyone. He needed the camera. This was the frame the old video began with. Her accident, his anger, their applause. Only one hand moved differently. The entire future followed it. Adrian did not squeeze. He did not shout. He simply corrected the blocking. Behind the flowers, someone understood that the target had found the camera. The old Adrian became a scandal because he never knew when he was performing. This time, he looked straight at the audience and took control of the show.